Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today it is a nice, cool weekend morning, about 70 degrees in the shop. Everyone else is still sleeping, so we're gonna get some work done on the 72 Challenger. Last we left off on this part of the car, we cut off, as you can clearly see, the rusty, beaten up chunk of quarter panel. And I was gonna slap the new piece on and then realized after prepping this is rusty and crusty and full of pinholes. And as long as we're putting new metal out here, let's put new metal in here too so we've got something solid to weld to. So I've gone ahead, gotten the new panel. Right here. And the only downside is you can see is it extends into the trunk itself by quite a bit. And we actually have inside here all prepped, ready for paint. It's got seam sealer, it's ready to go, and there's really nothing wrong with it. So instead, I'm gonna chop this up a little bit. See, there's a little bit of a body line right here, and that's where I'm gonna make my cut. Cut off the old piece and graft on the new metal, so we've got good solid metal down here to work with that doesn't flop around like a fish. And once that's in place, we have our new quarter patch from last video. Now we left off, we got this patched in and a little bit of filler on it, and just till we get it on the car. And I went ahead and slapped a little bit of primer on it, both at the front and the back side, which is also finished, just to make sure that any of this open metal is protected because, well, it gets humid down here in the summer. And who knows when we're gonna actually paint it, because we're still waiting on parts and help. So, end goal, this is gonna get grafted back onto here. I've got a little more trimming to do up here. But, see down here, on the inside of the wheel well, and then all along the bottom here and the back, it gets welded on. And down here, this metal was pretty non-existent. Back here, not so bad, but at least in the wheel well and down here was pretty well rusted and thin, so if I want to do spot welds in place there, it would just burn right through and I'd be left with a big mess. So we're just gonna go ahead, cut off the bad stuff, put on the good stuff, and a nice little time lapse. And while we're doing that, if you haven't hit subscribe yet, please do that. Like the video, make a comment. What am I screwing up? Hit the post notification bell, because we've got videos every week, usually on Friday and Saturday mornings, or Friday evenings or Saturday mornings. So you don't want to miss those. We've got tons of other projects. We've got 52 Chevy heading over here behind you. We just wrapped up our X5 rebuild, and somewhere around here I have a 75 Triumph Spitfire that's getting a frame off restoration as well. So maybe one of these days I will drag out the frame for that and start to get that prepped. But back to the topic at hand, let's get the old metal off and the new metal on. Alrighty, well you can see I got the patch cut and it's just dangling there on a couple of magnets. And overall it looks pretty good. Once it's actually in place, it'll look a lot better. So I'm gonna grab a couple of my butt clamps and get it, there you go, you can see, well, that back is slid down a little bit, but overall, looks like a pretty good cut and definitely leaves us something to work with here. So I'm gonna get some of my butt clamps and we'll get this tacked up. But the family's up, so time to go do the dad thing for a bit, which means I'll be back. But the family's up, so I've got to go do the dad thing, and we'll be back as soon as you can just do this. Nah, bad. But for now, the family's up, so I've got to go do the dad thing for a while. So we'll come back just like this. Alrighty gang, we're back. Evening, as you can tell behind me, it's dark. We've got the panel kind of set in place here. I'm going to put a few tacks in here, a little bit of massaging to get it to fit into place. But the biggest problem is, turn on my welding gas and it looks to be almost empty. So we may be severely limited tonight with only a few tacks to get in place before I've got to run the town tomorrow and get some more gas. So let's just tack in a few places now and hope we can get that done. And then I'll go grab some more gas and we'll come back and finish it up, I guess. I guess on the bright side, better it's happening now versus halfway through welding on the panel. I've got to go look at the other side, try, but I don't think I'm going to get able to, well, maybe from the inside, is see if this piece got bent in the removal of the old skin, or if this piece is off and needs to be bent in to match this. So I've got to go do that. But in the meantime, I'm going to go and I guess run the town tomorrow and grab some more welding gas. So I hope to get this done tonight, so tomorrow we could go and get this put back on, but I guess everything is going to be delayed because, well, I'm out of gas. All right, everybody, we're back. It's a new day, and I got gas for the welder. So I went ahead and just put this panel back on here, welded it up. It was kind of, off topic from what we're really trying to focus on here, which is getting this quarter patch put back on. But this is done, it's on, it's secure, and now we can go ahead and take our new panel with my little pass-through of tools here. It's kind of a convenient place to set tools when you're working. We'll go ahead, grab the panel. Now that it's been laying in the dirt. Set it back up here where it should go. And with any luck, my patch I put down here fits. It will. Yes, my new panel will fit on just perfect, but I've got this other crap to get out of the way first. So, I'm going to stay pretty true to my lines that I first put on. Got one here. Yep. 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 You fit in. Yeah, it's going to fit in pretty well. So I'm going to start working my way down this line pretty precisely. Hopefully that's going to let us fit the new panel in there. A little bit of fitment I'm sure is still going to be needed, but for the most part I think we're going to be able to fit in there pretty well. So let me go ahead and just get that done. All right, let's see how that works for us here. know, that's actually aside from my little flub here, which will pretty much tuck up once the panel is pushed back down. A little bit of a gap there I'm not happy about, but hey, you know what? We can fix that. Pretty much, most things are lining up where I would like them to be. This body line matches up pretty well. Need to take a little more off right here for it to fit in. But otherwise, I think everything's gonna pretty well tuck in where it should. Yeah, I'm kind of okay with how that tucks in. I'm gonna do a little bit of measurement, see where we are, let's say from this curve of the trunk back here, around the quarter, down to this light, make sure we're even on both sides of the car, and trim this little bit off here, and see where we're at. Okay. That actually is looking pretty good to me. Now, we do have some issues here with this body line around the wheel arch. It needs to be pounded back in to match this panel. Around the backside, we're pretty well lined up as well, so that's good. I'm gonna go ahead and throw a couple of butt clamps on here just to try and keep this in place so I can measure. This may have been pushed in a little bit too. Yeah, I'm gonna have to bring all this area out here some to match the contour, but that's for another day. Try a few clamps here quick. These things here from Harbor Freight are awesome. Alrighty, well, you can see we have basically where it needs to be. A little bit of massaging going to be on this line here. Kind of got a little bigger gap than I wanted to, but we can move things around still a little bit more and get it in place where it needs to be. This arch here fits perfectly behind here. I've got just the tiniest little gap that I can suck in and hit with my pinch welder. This area, like I said, does need to come out a little bit. Back here, it's pretty good. A little bit of a gap, but I've got some stuff back here to work with, like some of the valance for the trunk underneath the taillights. So I need to work that a little bit, push things around to get it into place. And then this back end is gonna suck in just like it should. What I wanna do though, I think I want to put just a couple of tacks on this. If I have to take it off, I do. But trying to work on getting this pulled out. I want to just tack it in place before I weld everything fully, because I know once I do that, it's going to be hard to get this where it needs to be. And I do want to have this loose so I can pull it out and match this line here. So that's what I'm going to do, I think. Get that tacked in. I can see here this gets pushed up a little bit to match this line, and then we're spot on there. That's perfect. I like seeing that. I can work this as I go along, make sure this is nice and flush. That's not going to be a big problem. The last thing I want to do is measure from here up to here and see where we're at. I just got to find a flash or a tape measure. Alrighty, found myself a tape measure. Take a measure from up here, around to here. And sitting there, I'm at just over 10.5. And that side was 10.5. So as I go and bring, see this gap here, as I bring this up, this is just like a 1/16 or maybe an 1/8 inch here. As I pull this up to where it should be, that's gonna close that gap. And I'm gonna be at my 10.5 here, the same as I was over on the passenger side. Yep, I'm gonna be just perfect there. But what I do wanna do, I'm gonna take this off again, I'm gonna get everything cleaned up. Bring out my contour tool, get that sanded off. But for now, I think I'm gonna wrap this up here because there's a lot of stuff to do off camera, getting this whole area prepped. We'll come back with that contour sander on the rest of this quarter panel and of course on the passenger side so you can see how that works. My newest acquisition from Harbor Freight. But for right now, the important thing I wanted to get dialed in was knowing that these cuts and this panel is going to fit. Once I get everything up, moved around, it's gonna be a couple of hours of just tinkering around, which nobody wants to see. They wanna see, you wanna see stuff actually get done, welded, beat on, painted, and turned hot pink. So, that's where we're gonna leave it for now. We'll come back, we've got between this, we've got the roof going on, the drip rails, plenty of content for the Challenger. And I think once the roof is back in, yeah, we're pretty much good to finish up the bodywork from the engine compartment back and get everything primed, blocked, and ready for a final coat of sealer. And just waiting for Darren to have an opportunity to come down here, go over the engine. Want to flush out the transmission. I think there's still some bad fluid floating around in the torque converter, so I want to get that addressed before we pull the engine out, because if the transmission has to go in for service, beyond just getting cleaned up and paint job, I want to know before we stab it back in the car after everything's painted. So that's where we're at with the front end. So, and there's also the front inner fender to deal with, the front core support needs to get addressed. So there's a lot of work up front still to take care of, but at least from the firewall back, we should be able to get most everything ready to go in primer, which I think is a big step. So until we come back with the next segment, hope you're enjoying this. If you haven't yet, hit subscribe if working on old cars like this is your type of deal. And we'll see you real soon next time.